Hey friends, guess what day it is today? Dahlia planting day and a few other summer flowers. And yes, that's my order of priority when it comes to flowers. What we're going to do today in this video is we're planting out all my summer flowers, which will be the entire large L shape, which will be mostly dahlias. Like 50 to 60% of this bed will be dahlias later on. What we're also going to talk about is when is the right moment to plant dahlias, how to plant them, how to support them, because that's something what we're going to do in the first step to really go in here and look at the supports which we need to change. Those were last year's supports, still those T-posts, but they were too short. So we'll replace them, add a few more to have some extra stability. And in the last step, we'll put some netting over it to really have, yeah, good ground level support for everything growing up. And then later on the T-posts and some additional twine will do the rest of the trick. But yeah, that is what we're going to do today, and I hope you are here for it. So let's get started. So when do you know it's time to plant your dahlias? A few things for this. So we are here in a zone 6B in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and typically our last frost date around in May is supposed to be mid-May. We have Mother's Day today, so we are pretty much mid-May and on schedule with that. But what you should look out for is the soil temperature. This is really what determines the planting moment. You want to go with like 5 consecutive days of 60 degrees Fahrenheit of soil temp or higher. That is like the mark. And what you should also look out for is in the forecast that you have a stretch of no rain. That is what we have at the moment. I see like at the end of my 10-day forecast, 1 day of rain. So this is perfect to get the dahlia tubers into the ground, because whenever you put them into the ground and they have rain or get any other water source, it increases the risk of rotting. So that's really nothing what you want. Your treasured dahlia tubers, which you babied along all winter long in storage, that they then get planted and rot away, right? So the moment, like the weather forecast and the soil temperature is really key for it. I have this cute little soil thermometer, which I typically use to go into the soil. And I've been monitoring it for a while now. So we have been in the 60-degree range already for 1.5 weeks to be certain about the weather and the rain situation. I waited until now to plant them. And of course, life, I needed a weekend to do it as well. So this is something what we're going to do today. And yeah, and then it's really just important to prepare your site well. As I mentioned earlier, you want to have staking and all the supports in place before you plant the dahlias out. And with all the supports, I also mean the irrigation, right? So don't do anything with the ground anymore, because you risk in the end piercing those tubers, which you also don't want to do, right? So for us, I will remove the staking where I'm going to plant the dahlias. My plan is to have dahlias completely surrounding here my garden patio to have a beautiful backdrop in the summertime. And that is where we will replace the shorter T-posts with larger ones and hope for the best. Because when you think about supports, you need to think about how tall dahlias can get by September, not how small they are in the beginning, but when they are full size in September. And we have here whipping winds in especially September and starting going into fall. Like my dahlias were like flopping, not flopping, but like got pushed around a lot more than I wanted it to be. So this year we'll take supports a little bit more serious and hope for the best. And yeah, let's get going. What else are we're going to plant next to dahlias? I know they are my favorite, but of course we're also planting some other beauty. We have already here some yarrow and some ami sitting at the end of it. And then we'll have some varieties of basil here for fillers, a good strip of zinnias, some celosia, and then over there we're also planting some statice. And one thing I forgot right now, but I'll catch you up on that one later. So we have here some fillers and zinnias and celosia, and then all my dahlias, and over there a few more other cute flowers. So one thing I learned last year was that I love all my dahlias, but really beautiful bouquet comes with a lot of variety. So this is why I have a lot of different things planted out in my garden this year. And we'll have more also when we switch out the spring bed with some summer flowers as well. Probably in June, we'll flip that around for a second succession so that we hopefully have a lot of varieties of many, many beautiful things as well. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I think you can. Yes. I'm also having here a large roll of chicken wire to just put it around the entire bed. The bunny pressure has been terrible this year. They are very persistent and declared war on me. So I'll put some chicken wire around as long as everything is sprouting. I didn't have much trouble with them last year after everything wasn't small, young, and tasty anymore. So we'll just have this here for a month or two until everything has a good height, and then I'll take that chicken wire away again. And I don't mind sharing a little bit with the bunnies, but they have been very, very persistent this year. So we're a little bit more prepared in that regard. Another item of preparation I always have ready are my labels, because you really don't want to be in the position that you plant some tubers out and don't know what in the end is going to happen or going to grow there because you missed labels, right? Or didn't label it properly. I had last year the funny idea to create some tall labels because, as you know, the dahlias are growing up tall, and like labels on the bottom are just not practical in this regard. So what I've done is I got those copper labels, and with those copper labels, I just taped them with some duct tape on some s'more sticks. And this gives then those really, really tall labels, which worked very well for me. And most of them are still, I think, totally fine to use it this season as well. Otherwise, I will just get rid of the s'more stick and replace it. The copper labels are perfectly fine still. So we can reuse them. One word of caution: whenever you reuse labels like this or anything else in that matter, like stakes or any plant supports which have been there last season and you bring them into this season, what I really recommend is to clean them up with some bleach or some alcohol to just ensure that if you had any problems last year, that you're not transferring those problems this year. I had some powdery mildew. I know I had some blight with my tomatoes. So all of those trellis and support items get wiped with some bleach solution in the beginning of the season to just ensure that we're literally have a clean slate for this year's garden. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put them in the driveway and just have a little like a spray bottle of bleach solution, which I will give them a spritz from the bottom, from the top to the bottom and all around, and then I think it should be good. All right, I just remembered which plant I forgot. Cosmos. So we're also planting some cosmos here, my seedlings. They are quite happy and very pretty. I all grew them just in the 1.5-inch soil blocks, and yep, they're definitely more than ready to go out. I have a flat of basil as well, which goes out, and a few other small dahlia seedlings, which are all appropriately hardened off and yeah, ready to be planted. So over here, I've laid out all the dahlias which I want to plant, and also like the labels, just some ground labels for me to orient where I put which tubers in. So we're going to have dahlias from here all the way around, pretty much like at the end of the patio. And then we will have zinnias and basil and some feverfew over there. And here in this front spot, which is empty, we'll have status, cosmos, yeah, and maybe I plug there a couple more zinnias, and we'll get to see how many we have over there. Yeah, so we can start here. I have some seedlings, which the wind is flopping around, but you can see here I have my labels. Just put in some plastic labels. What I do and how I plant my dahlias is a little bit closer than anybody recommends, but it worked out very well for me last year. So I'm doing just this. The seedlings are even closer than that. So they are like 9 inches apart, which should be fine. They usually don't get as big in the first year. So we'll just see which ones we like and the other ones get pulled. And for all my other dahlias, I orient myself where I have emitters, because my emitters are spaced 12 inches, so 1 foot apart. And that is where I plant them. So I have like 3 lines of emitters going through, and every emitter will basically get a dahlia tuber. Important is the emitters will be shut off as long as they are sprouting. So I have this nice and flexible system where I can turn them on and off. And yeah, that is then later on where also I'm able, like for the ones which are sprouting faster, or the ones which I have already pre-sprouted here, they of course need water. So I can keep those ones on and really water them along the way and just pluck them along. So I think that is going to be great. Here you can see again how much it will be. So all of that will be dahlia heaven later. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I think what I'm going to do is I'll start with my seedlings, plugging those ones in over here and see how many I have left. Because I also do have a few extra just safety tubers left. So I just want to make sure that I use the most of it, what's valuable to me, but I also don't want to waste any seedlings. So I think I'll start with the seedlings here first, plug those ones in, and walk myself through here. That will take the remainder of the afternoon. So how I'm going to plant most of my seedlings here. I'll dig a hole, put some biotone starter fertilizer in, and yeah, make sure that they have decent spacing. I'm known for cramping my stuff a little bit more in than people recommend, but it usually works well for me. And if something is too cramped, I can always pull one plant out or so, but I like to stretch it sometimes and see how it goes. So yeah, let's get started here. I also have some extra labels with me in case I want to label things. Yeah, and that's usually how I go. And we'll work ourselves completely through the entire L today. So that's some work. So for the basil, we have here about a little bit more than half of the tray. The varieties I love to grow for fillers. And then the rest is my large leaf pesto basil, which will go into the beds, into the vegetable beds. So, so we'll focus here today on the filler varieties. Here I have some Maya's lemon basil, which smells like lemon. I can't believe it. My blue basil. We have some opal basil, which is struggling because everything else grew faster, and some cardinal basil. So we'll plant those ones out here, and then we'll go further to the zinnias. And look at those roots. I would just love to have some fertilizer out. It's easier than grabbing into the back at all times. So I plant them about like 6 inches apart. That has worked well last year. Yeah, they supported each other well. So we'll stick with that. Always make sure you water your seedlings in well. Mine were also super dry, so they get a little extra water. And don't be scared or upset if they look a little droopy. That is normal. Last year, I planted a lot of extremely small, extremely sad looking seedlings, and all of them, and when I mean all of them, I mean all of them, turned around into very happy large plants. So even if you think your seedlings are not looking great, I would encourage you to just give them a try, plant them and see what happens. Can't be anything worse than them not being happy and die, but in the best case, you get just plants as you plant because you wanted them. So I really got to know and love Statice last year. They are such a cool plant because the flowers are so great for dry arrangements as well. Come on, shake, shake, shake. So this year I got a mix of colors. So I'm really excited to see how it will turn out. 9. Nice. We still have more space for dahlias. Love it. All right. Did you know about cosmos that you're able to actually plant them deep and they will just root out? So these ones I'll plant a little bit deeper, just like how you do it with tomatoes. So you can plant them deeper and they root out and get a more stable base. So I will dig a little bit deeper holes for those ones. So now we start planting our dahlia tubers. Best time of the year. Yes, I love all the flowers, but I love especially the dahlias. So how do we plant dahlia tubers? So whenever you have a tuber, you want to make sure you plant it flat or what is it, horizontal. I know for some reason it feels more natural to plant it vertical, but that is not how you want to plant it. You want to lay it flat in the ground, like about like 2 to 3 inches deep or 4 inches, and then with the eye looking up. So I store my tubers in saran wrap, so I'm just keeping them here in the shadows and unwrap those ones. My name is there. Hi. You. Oh. What are you doing? You need something? Want to help me planting? What's that? I know it's windy. She hates the wind. Don't burp in my face. Ooh. She also loves to smell the fertilizer. That's probably what brought her here. So we plant those ones flat, as I mentioned, and where the eye is looking up. So that's the growth point, which should go up. As I mentioned earlier, I have here irrigation, 3 lines in this 3 feet deep bed. I plant them close to an irrigation point so they are well watered all season long. For now, that is very important. They do not need any water. That is critical. Do not water them in. Plant them when you don't have any rain coming. And for that reason, I also make sure that when I plant them, I close up here my flexible emitter so that they don't get watered when the other plants get watered. And then otherwise, I don't use any fertilizer or any amendments when I plant them. Yeah, just putting them in, wishing them good luck. Closing that emitter. It's always a little bit difficult with the gloves. It's easier without. While we're on it, closing those ones here. And the nice thing with that flexible emitter setup is I can just turn them on where I see those dahlias sprouting up early, which is kind of cool. So that was by design. Because also sometimes you have different plants which has different water needs. So to have those adjustable emitters and being able to really play with the amount of water they get can be really, really helpful. Okay, unwrap those ones. And I'm only bringing out like 2 or 3 varieties at the time, so we're not mixing those ones up. I have the small labels at the moment here. I will label them with tall labels when I have those ones ready to go. Look, that one is a pretty one. See the eye beautifully, so I'll put that here. And then third one. The saran wrap method has been really the most successful one for me here to store my tubers. It is a lot of work to wrap them, but I have literally like 95% of my tubers surviving and being like crisp and tough and beautiful eyes on it. So can really recommend it. It's probably not something what you want to do if you have like a large garden. So for my dahlias here and storing them, that is just fine. So those are my Cozy Town baby cakes. I can't wait to have those ones again. If I could just grow, or if I just had to grow one for the rest of my life, I would probably choose the baby cakes. It's a perfect dahlia from Cozy Town. And here I have one also already like pre-sprouted a little bit. What I typically do when I have pre-sprouted ones, I plant them in the middle so that the ones who come up from the tubers, that they have space and light from the outside and not get shaded in. That has worked well for me so far, so we'll keep doing that. We did it. We planted this full cut flower strip out with summer flowers. As you can tell by the changed lighting conditions, that took a while. I think in total it took, yeah, 4 to 5 hours to plant everything with like labeling, a little bit of a break here for ice cream. And yeah, not rushing it, right? I want to make sure that the labeling was correct for the dahlias. Nothing is worse that a lost label and you got to wait until you see the bloom to understand what it is. Also have for the first time some dahlia seedlings here, which I'm really curious to see how they turn out. I know the percentage or the chance is minimal for a stunner. Trying it anyway. You want to have this vertical netting in place as soon as you can, because once the plants start to get just a little bit taller, it is a pain to put it through. So that is what we will do. The only thing I'm going to do when we're done here now is to put the chicken wire around it. I do not want the bunnies to ravage on my zinnias, the basil, or my dahlia seedlings, which are fresh and small, or they love the cosmos as well. So anyway, not taking any chances here. I will roll around the chicken wire, even if it's an eyesore for a little while until it's bigger. But yeah, I'm just not feeling like fighting bunnies this year for all of it. Isn't it an exciting feeling to finally are able to plant stuff outside again, the seeds you've nurtured for so long into seedlings, and handing it over to Mother Nature now officially, and I hope she will take good care of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me in the comments what you're excited about this year. I'm really loving to see all the comments under my videos. And yeah, subscribe here and watch another video. Thank you.